what we call in product like the North Star of what you're trying to do is like velocity and impact. You have a certain amount of resources and you're trying to get the best like bang for your buck with
Hmm.
those resources. There's kind of like an art to what you should copy and just go with what is the established form factor for something and like where you should innovate. I think a big mistake I see companies see is like they either copy things that are inappropriate for them or that they try to innovate in places that they shouldn't. And they end up just like
Mm.
wasting a bunch of time.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. My name is Dan Hafner. I'm coming to you with a very interesting episode, very awesome guest today by the name of Daniel Layfield. He's in the house today. We're going to bring him on here in just 1 minute. We're going to talk. He's been really, really big in the product management space. He's worked for companies like Code Academy and Uber Eats and done all kinds of really like big name things. So like we're going to learn some cool stuff today on this Thanksgiving Black Friday week. It'd be very, very cool to kind of dive into all this psychology stuff. And, we talked a lot about churn and has, just a lot of cool things. Like if you have a tool, you're building a tool, I think this will be a very, very useful episode for you to tune into. So before I get into that and bring Daniel on, it is Black Friday, as I just mentioned, you guys. So I am going to share a quick offer with you guys for a program that I am launching here. And it is basically the 72-hour Black Friday flash sale for the Dapper no-code Accelerator, okay? We're going to launch your tool, launch your app idea inside of 4 weeks, and I'm going to help walk you through this and just so you can get everything launched and live by January 1st. I've never offered it at this low of a price before. It's basically a done with you type of deal. We're going to get a set of emails, a set of things every few days. And if you have an idea, if you've been sitting on the fence, you're not really sure how to do this, we're going to walk you through step by step using a no-code tool to get your idea, your MVP live and launched by January 1st of this year at the very latest. So this is not a done for you type of deal. We have other things like that if you're looking to have software built. This is more of a step by step, I will hold your hand, help you figure out how to bring this to life. A lot of people there's so many people with ideas nowadays. AI has accelerated this. We talk about this all the time on the show. So you can go to dappermobileapps.com slash, what is it again? It is 4-week boot camp. I'll put the link in the show notes for you guys. Okay. So that is all I wanted to share about that. Very, very excited to launch that. That's going to be very cool to kick that off as the kind of one of the inaugural type of beta tests with that program. So, that is for you guys there. And without any further ado, welcome to the show, Mr. Layfield. How are you, sir?
Yeah, thanks, man. Great to be here.
Yeah, this is cool, man. So tell us a little bit, 30-second overview of who you are and kind of what you do.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I'm a product manager by trade. I've always existed kind of on the line between managing core products and growth of products. So I started my career in management consulting and finance, got bored out of my mind, left, joined the tech world. I joined a company called Code Academy, which was a big kind of mid 2010s learn to code platform. We were one of the first things on the internet for it. I got there at around like 20 people and stayed there through about 250 people. I ran the growth team, so I learned a ton about like how you grow consumer subscription products. So we grew that product probably from around 10 million ARR to about 50 million ARR when I left. I moved to Uber. I ran kind of a more traditional product service there. So I ran the home feed of Uber Eats. So Uber Eats is like a probably top globally food delivery company. The Uber Eats is about 50% of Uber's revenue. The home feed initiated about 50% of orders on Eats. So you see like massive consumer volume there. Awesome experience. Left, did my own thing for a year and a half, consulting with a bunch of subscription companies. And now I'm a product director at a company called Diligent, which is one of those biggest things you've never heard of. We run all of the corporate governance and compliance work for giant companies.
Very cool. Very cool. Wow. Quite a resume there. Very interesting.
Yeah, like
So
makes sense in retrospect. It feels very random when you're going through it.
yeah. No, I get that. I look back on my career and, I wouldn't even say I'm towards the end of it, but I can see how all the dots got connected to be where I am today. So, from going into tech and then into sales and then, kind of my own business and stuff. So Interesting, man. Interesting. So, okay, I got a question for you going back all the way to Code Academy, because I've heard of that. I think I had used some of their tools
Yeah.
back in the day. I was probably a customer. You were there early. You said you were number 20 employee, um, and the ARR, the annual recurring, went up like 5x or something, like
Yeah.
crazy. What was I mean, I guess this is just a high level question. What was like the biggest maybe like lesson you learned or takeaway that you learned for like how that was accomplished as it related to the product? You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, great question. I'd say unfortunately, the story everybody loves with tech companies is like, what was the change that did it?
Yeah.
And in my experience, like that's almost never true.
Yeah.
I'd say like the truthful answer to that is like you just get the right people, you sweat all the details. You're as operationally efficient as you can, and you stay focused for a really, really, really long period of time on like the little bells and whistles that matter. Um, Code Academy is also like a very specific scenario where it launches in 2011. It's the first high quality learn to code product on the internet. So we have massive traffic by the time I'm there in 2016. My memory's fading a little bit. We're probably getting something like 2 million people to the site a month. So like the game we need to play is like converting the free users to be paid users and retaining them. So in a sense, that gave us like the hard work the founders did and the brand loyalty that already existed allows us to just focus on monetization and conversion by that point.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I that's like the unsexy answer, like you said. It's like, well, it wasn't just like we just switched this one thing on a page. No, we like
Yep.
rolled our sleeves up and got very dirty and got our hands dirty and figured it out and did that for a sustained period of time that most people would not do.
It's
And
the hardest part of tech companies, or
yeah,
maybe any companies. My experience is mostly in tech companies is like sustained focus in specific areas.
yeah.
In
I've probably said this on the show many times, and I'll probably say it many more times again. There was a mentor of mine when I was starting out. He was like, Dan, like if you're getting into software, I'll tell you straight up, you're better off. You could make more money as a massage therapist when you're starting out trying to
Mhm.
launch your own product. But it's well worth it. You can make 100 million times more than a massage therapist. But it's like starting out, it's incredibly hard to do. Uh, yeah. Anyway, I always like to throw that in there because it's always stuck with me.
Yep. Yeah, especially consumer subscription. It's very like the model itself has both like great dynamics to it and tricky dynamics to it because like the business you're building is kind of like a snowball rolling down a hill. Like towards the end, it's getting much, much bigger and moving much faster. But at the beginning, it's really, really, really tiny. And because the cash flows in subscriptions tend to be spread out, it's like tougher to use paid ads unless you've like raised a ton of money or like accelerate the early stages.
Yeah. Yeah. Because at the beginning, you don't have a ton of money to go do paid ads.
Nope.
And you don't have the actual like true needs of that customer and like validated things and you're just throwing money away you're just
Yep.
lighting it on fire essentially.
Yeah. And I would say most of like I'd say publicized growth tactics that come out of the startup world are really more appropriate for like B2B customers or like e-commerce customers. Like the
Mm,
consumer subscription base, just like less of these companies grow up to be dominant.
yeah,
There's like less is known.
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean there's so I guess let's fast forward to today. I think what do you think? So ChatGPT became the fastest application ever to a million users. I think they did in like 5 days. What could we learn from an application like that? I've kind of kicked this around in my mind recently. I was kind of going back to it, and I was like, how what was their recipe for moving that fast? Like I asked myself, was it the user experience? Was it just the fact that it was just a brand new idea that was like incredibly popular and easy to go viral? Was it mostly that or was there like a tried and true recipe behind why something like that would take off?
Yeah, it's a great question. I debate how much can be learned from the outliers. Like I don't know if you're
Mm,
a sports fan, but like
yeah.
if you think of the greatest athletes of all time, like to a certain extent, there's not a ton that can be learned from them. Of like you were just bigger, stronger, and faster than everybody else. And then you learn tactics. Like I'd say like that's pure kind of Silicon Valley style of growth relies on just overwhelming innovation. In a sense, it's like they almost grow despite those other inhibitions. Like I think if you look at like, a local car dealership that starts and thrives over 25 years, you learn more practical growth lessons around just like focus, channel, payback cycles, like innovation, serving customers.
Hmm. That's a good point. But I think I also like I remember you ever see The Last Dance on Netflix with Michael Jordan and the Bulls and all that stuff? I mean, that was pretty interesting because you learn like a lot about like Michael Jordan's mindset and
Yep.
how he really pushed himself. I'll give that to you. I think that he's obviously an outlier. He is the greatest of all time, in my opinion. I'm not a sports episode, not a sports commentator, but MJ is the best of all time. There's no debate there. Um, but yeah, like there's he was a rare mindset, a rare competitor, something that is like it's impossible for the normal person to replicate. But then I also think of he is just a man. Like at one point in his life, he was not like that. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
so is there still things you can learn about the outliers? Or I like what you said about like there's probably a lot more to learn from a 25-year car dealership that you just watch and succeed from. Um, and yeah, none of us can be the Chat GPT, the darlings, I always talk about Lovable and how like they've literally become like the biggest tech company in the world, like overnight almost. Those are outliers, but there also is, I think, there's got to be some kind of formula. There's got to be some kind of, is it the right thing at the right time, I think, is also
Yep.
part of it. But I'm just curious on what you think about that.
Yeah, I think there's always in those outliers, there's a couple things happening. Like the biggest tech companies get that way because like they're riding a wave. And like in society and in innovation with technology, there's certain waves that appear. It's like there was the internet in the early 2000s, there's the shift to mobile in the early 2010s, there's cloud, and now we're in the AI wave. So like in these waves is always when new things become possible and there's like a window to disrupt everything. I think if you look at the big LLM companies, like they're also good at positioning what they're doing in the most like groundbreaking, innovative way possible. So that all LLMs are presented as AI, not like text prediction models, which is like largely what the underlying technology is.
Mm,
And it's like they almost like court that PR grabbing controversy of like, will this totally replace humans? And like, AI is amazing, but like it is yet to replace anybody in any job I've ever worked in. It makes the best people better.
yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. I agree with you. That's a very good way to look at it. So like let me ask you this. I'm curious about, someone with your expertise in this. One thing that I see from my clients a lot when we're building apps, we're building software is they love to people seem to think that, and maybe you can dispel this for us. People seem to think that you have to keep um, applications or new software um, in the same vein of design and feel as existing tools. Like for example,
Mhm.
people say, "Hey, like people are just used to using Instagram. So if I'm
Yep.
building a social feature in my app, it should look exactly like Instagram because people are familiar with that."
Mhm.
From your perspective, is that something that is useful or not?
Good question. Like I would say the kind of like what we call in product like the north star of what you're trying to do is like velocity and impact. So you have a certain amount of resources and you're trying to get the best like bang for your buck with those resources. Those could be your time you put into a no code tool, those could be engineering hours, those could be R&D dollars, etc. You want to drive maximum impact towards your goals when you spend those things. So there's kind of like an art to what you should copy and just go with what is the established form factor for something and like where you should innovate. I think a big mistake I see companies see is like they either copy things that are inappropriate for them or that they try to innovate in places that they shouldn't and they end up just like wasting a bunch of time. Like I'd say a really good example is like let's say you wanted to build comment functionality in your application. Like Google, MS Word, Notion, like everybody has invented what comment functionality is. You should just copy that
Yep.
and make it work for you,
It's
not
basic.
spend a bunch of R&D cycles innovating there. Like how you provide the whatever is like the core use case of your product, like there is room for innovation there and there's room for polish there.
Hmm.
But like
Yeah.
a
That's
dirty
that.
secret of product development is like it can be crazy wasteful
Yeah.
if you put it in the wrong places.
Put it in the wrong places. Yeah. I mean, I think about that. Like, when I think the LLM stuff we were just talking about, like they all came out and it was, there's all the same layout in all of these tools now. It's like your left hand side is your chat history, and then the right hand side is the updating thing, and then they all look like that. Um, interesting. Yeah, I like that. So it's a matter of resource and time allocation rather than just trying to be like, we just need to copy TikTok kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I
Yeah.
think the way you tend to think about this at big companies, so this is how we think about it at Diligent, this is how we thought about it at Uber, is like you have a universe of things you could do. What is like the most efficient way of spending your engineering time to drive the maximum impact with the highest confidence? Because like as the product grows bigger, it's just like a circle growing. It's like the
Hmm.
circumference around it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and the universe of things you could do grows larger and larger and larger. It's like the prioritization and the scoping.
Yeah, I talk about that all the time. That's part of the program I just was promoting at the
Yeah,
beginning.
great.
Is like the first thing is just like that. So, okay, so let's double click on that. Let's go into that deeper. I'm interested in that because you know d- maybe take us back to your time at Uber when there is, like you said, there is a million different things you could do. We experience this all the time with clients, right? Do you have a process? Do you have a mental model or like something you can share with us? Maybe this is an example for a tactical kind of thing,
Yeah.
of like how do you go through that? Okay, there's 900 million things we could do. What do we focus on, and how do we, like, what's your process for determining that?
Yeah, great question. So this is less my process. I would call this like the industry standard process. So there's different like buzzwords around it. But I'd say the first thing most first class software development companies do is they're thoughtful about setting metrics. Specifically, they're typically called like North Star metrics. So a classic example is like Airbnb's North Star metric is nights booked. And like it's intentionally chosen probably not to be profit, because if you optimize for a profit, you probably optimize for the cities where there's density in the marketplaces and you limit the expansion across the world. So like they really, really thoughtfully choose North Star metrics. And then those North Star metrics are kind of like decomposed into the business units that anyone can drive. So you'll have like a host side, you'll have an internal operations side, you'll have a guest side, and they all then pick their own North Star metrics to drive them. So when I was at Uber Eats, the North Star metric of my universe was conversion of the home feed. So like once someone scrolls one pixel down in the feed, what's the conversion rate that we get them to orders? So like everything in my world was kind of like denominated in that currency. So when you go into roadmap planning, you list a bunch of ideas in a spreadsheet typically. You try to do what's called like headroom analysis on like what do we think we could do to home feed conversion with this project if we change the layout of the feed, if we tweak the recommendation models, if we pumped in more data sets, if we did push notifications, etc. So you end up in like a kind of a column that has like very roughly estimated headroom analysis. You then go through with your engineers and say like, how expensive are these projects? So typically you use like an estimation framework. I'd say to me the most useful one is use some type of what's called t-shirt sizing. So like extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, and you assign kind of weekly values to those. So small, extra small is a week, small is 2 weeks, medium is 4 weeks, large is 8 weeks, etc. And you end up then comparing that against the hours you have on the team. So we got 15 engineers, we got, let's say, 100 hours in the quarter for simple math. We got 1,500 hours, we take out weekends and vacations and blah, blah, blah. And you end up in kind of like a stacked ranked list of like what's our best kind of like bang for the buck use of these things. And that ends up being like the start of planning. So exceptions come in, stuff comes up across the quarter, strategic priorities, like maybe pushed by leadership that don't like win the pure math of roadmap planning.
Man, that's good. There's a lot there. As you were talking about that, that really made me think of one particular client that I have I think that now that I think about it, I think they might have just kind of lost uh, track of the North Star metric because I really like that idea. That's actually something that I have that I should really get back to with a lot of the planning that we do for clients. Um,
Yep, it's the hardest part about software development is like it to a certain extent like changes feel kind of free because you're just like moving code around in a tool. It's
mhm,
like really easy to lose track of the cost of all those doing those things. Like if you run like if you're let's say you're a 1,000-person company or you're 100-person company, you use like US and European based developers. Like one pot of developers might cost like 30 to $50,000 every 2 weeks to run a sprint. And it's like you need to be shipping stuff that like makes you more than that back, or you're just going to run out of money as a company. And I'd say it's like the process I described, that's almost like it's like the enterprise grade version of that process. So it implies like your engineers have been in those areas long enough to know the cost of projects. You don't get like randomly caught off guard by technical debt or like any of these things that blows up scope. You've kind of been in the area long enough that you can like roughly predict impact of certain sizes of changes. But even if you like shrink this down to like a 3-person company, you can do like a version of that. And North Star metrics keep you kind of focused on what matters.
hmm. That's really good. That's really. I hope you guys got some value out of that one. That really has got me thinking a lot about some
Yeah, I
things.
mean, to be clear, like it's a pain in the ass. Like it's way
Yeah.
more fun to just like read blogs and ship ideas and like
Yeah.
hope something changes. But like there's a reason all the greatest software development firms operate like this. Because
Yeah.
you have to like fight the human nature side of this of like a TikTok launched a feature. We should launch the same feature. Let's drop what we're doing, do something more exciting.
Yeah, because again, then you just become a dog chasing your tail. Like you just like you said, it's just because somebody launched live streaming in their app or something, like doesn't mean that you should too. It's like, is that
100%.
going to actually drive your North Star metric forward or not? Because it could just
Yep.
be an endless distraction. Hmm.
Yeah, I'd say at Code Academy, we were kind of the industry leaders from probably like 2013 to 2020, roughly.
Yeah.
Um, And like we would ship stuff, it wouldn't work. We would get distracted and just like move on. And we would watch our competitors clone those features because they assume like we know what we're doing. We're like, we are good at what we're doing, but like we're not good at everything we're doing. Like we launch stuff, it fails, we ship MVPs, they get abandoned. We need to move in a new direction. Key people leave, they had the context on those features, so they just kind of get dropped. Like,
Hmm. Well, they do say that imitation is the highest form of flattery. So
but yeah,
that's
100%. I mean, like, sorry to those companies who copied all that stuff that we did that didn't work, but
that's pretty crazy. Interesting. Interesting. Um, okay. Well, one question I have for you, I'm not really sure if this might be in your wheelhouse or not, but it kind of got me thinking about this because this is something I've seen a couple of times recently where we have people that have a and this might be something to do with like maybe Uber Eats as well because there's Uber Eats is not the only app where you can order food on, right? So do you see have you ever seen like a good example of someone who's able to say like, hey, I have 10 million followers on TikTok, or I have a million
mhm.
followers on TikTok or whatever. And then they try to translate that following into an application or something like that. And if so, how has that gone and what's your experience with that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think in the age of LLMs, like and no code tools, like the executional side of building tech products is easier than it's ever been. So like in 2010 to build like a working consumer application, you probably needed millions of dollars and to be located in like one of 5 cities in the world to scoop up the local talent who were the only ones capable of building it at that. That's changed a lot. I think what that innovation's done is like relatively speaking, raise the value of distribution over like execution of products. So I think you're seeing it now and it's going to be just more and more widespread that people with distribution have an advantage. So I think like I have to honestly pull up my phone to find the name of the app, but I use like I think his name's Mike Urzatelli for Renaissance periodization. It's like a weightlifting diet macro coach online. I use his macro tracking app. I want to say he's probably got like 2 million YouTube subscribers or something like that. But I think you're going to see a lot more like influencer based um, apps get launched.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't necessarily make it is easier to build software applications, but it's still not easy compared to all other businesses. So I think a lot of people like jump into app creation, as I'm sure you see. And it's like it's still hard. You still need people who are dedicated to it full time.
Yeah, that's how I birthed my business, right? I found out that no code doesn't mean no problems. It's
100%. Yeah.
it's still hard to
You're dealing
do.
with iOS updates and bugs and all those things.
Yeah, and that's why I exist. That's why we do what we do, because people dive into it and then they're like, "Oh, I don't really have the time or the expertise to be able to do this. I'd rather just pay someone to do it."
Yep. Definitely.
Interesting, interesting. Okay. Another thing I want to ask you about, how are we doing on time here?
Oh, I get
We're
time.
okay, cool. Um, One thing I wanted to ask you about, I get a lot of questions about, maybe you can, and again, I tend to ask a lot of generic questions because I'm trying to like make a lot, this applicable for as many people as possible.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, obviously people who want to come in and they say, "Hey, we want to build an app, but I want to monetize this thing. Maybe not right away. I want to maybe launch it for free, have a beta test, use case, but I want to monetize this thing." And a lot of times I see people struggle with like, how do I actually um, make an effective subscription that
Yeah.
people are actually willing to pay for. Like, so for example, I actually launched an app a couple of years ago that I experienced this exact thing. It was actually a little collector's app. Like, I saw my wife; she collected all these little mini things, like
Yeah.
little Disney doorables and like all this kind of stuff. And she was keeping them all in her notes. And I was like, there has to be an app for, like, there has to be a way to organize all this little stuff.
Yeah.
So I launched it and it was immensely popular. Like, we still have people sign up. I don't even promote the stupid thing anymore, but
Yep.
like we get 5 or 6 signups like a day on this thing.
Yep.
As soon as I tried to monetize it and make it either like a paid download or a $5 a month thing, flatlined. Zero. Like, absolute bomb. Take that away, everything goes back up, right? So
Yep.
I've experienced this myself with like that, that was my latest experiment with that.
Yep.
What kind of advice do you give to people, like maybe even in that situation or other situations, of like, what's the best way to price subscriptions? How do you come up with these? How do you make them valuable that people will do that? Because I know you're big into, churn rates and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just curious
Yeah,
on your thoughts
definitely.
on that.
I'd say there's a couple considerations here. One is kind of like problem persona, like length of problem. So, like, what's the underlying reason people come here? How intensely do they feel that problem? And how specific can you be on like the persona you're serving? So, there's a lot of what I'd call like repeated human behaviors that either like go on for more than 12 months or less than 12 months. So the longer than 12 months ones are like great consumer products. So like cell phone subscriptions, rent, insurance, etc. You can tell a lot of these products because they don't discount longer term plans because they're so confident in their long term retention. So like I just had to upgrade my business insurance. Not super surprisingly, they're not going to give me a discount for buying 12 months of insurance because I'll be on this insurance for 15 years. So there's no point in then kind of giving anything back. So I think one is like, are you tackling a problem that goes, I'd say, at least more than 3 or 4 months? So a lot of sub cases like fitness or diet or nutritions, like people get into these things and drop them relatively quickly. So in the collectibles example, like, is this a thing people will do for like years and years and years and years?
Exactly. Yeah.
Probably like a subset of them, yes. And then the key question is like, what's the exact persona that's in that subset? So like if I am like casually collecting baseball cards, I might not care. But if I'm like investing in baseball cards and need to like track value and worth and
Then
like
you're going to have it forever. Yeah.
like exactly, like that's a thing you'll probably do forever. And then can you like tailor product development to that? So I say like that's kind of like core value prop of product considerations. I say after that's distribution. So like a big question that exists in consumer product is like, do you do a freemium application? Do you have a trial? Like, how do you price your plans, et cetera, like that? To me, the less understood question there is like, what's your skill set? So the more like jumps you put into a conversion funnel. So a really long funnel would be like, you have a bunch of valuable free content on socials. They download the application. It has a free product. They want to pay for it. There's a 30-day trial. And then you get into the paid part of the product. Like that funnel is so long and
Yeah.
leaky. You're going to get like very low conversion rates. So like if you want to like acquire users in like a way that you use paid ads, you typically don't use a free product because the conversion between free and pay is going to be really, really low. So if you look at like the giant freemium products like Spotify, like Facebook ads is never like a material part of their acquisition portfolio because the free product does that. But you can only build big free products if the audience size is big enough. It's a little bit of a frustrating, like kind of everything depends on everything.
Yeah. No, no, no. That's very good for how broad I made that. That was a very good answer.
Yeah,
Very good answer.
this
Yeah.
comes up
No.
all the time.
Yeah, I think
Um,
about that because like I have a client now that's like they have like a quiz app that's specifically for people in the medical field,
yep,
and it's like you're not like my wife's going through getting board certified and stuff like that too. It's like there's an end goal to that. That's not something that I want to have a monthly subscription for the next 10 years. You
yep,
know, so
yeah,
price that accordingly. That
yep.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I'd say the best form factor I've seen for that style of subscription product is like the pricing and length of plan like matches the expected cadence the user expects to be on it. So like
Hmm.
my boards are 7 months away. I'm going to buy a 7 month subscription with maybe like a 2 month insurance to like get to that envisioned outcome. There's typically like, people make the worst business decisions when you start to over optimize on what the business wants versus what the consumer wants. Every
Yes.
business like wants you to never stop paying for this thing, but the consumers don't really want that. Like,
I mean, just it makes you just to really appreciate the genius of like Netflix. Like people are always going to want to watch movies.
yep,
Or things like that. So it's just like no wonder I've had the same Netflix subscription since like 2011, and I've never
yeah,
canceled it
100%.
ever. You know.
And like that, to a certain extent, that model of like giant consumer subscription product, those worlds, especially when it's based around like entertainment or music or learning or things like that, they favor giant companies because catalog size will be the main driver of retention. So it sets up this flywheel where like they make more money, they can spend more on content, which allows them to acquire more people who stay around longer because the content is larger, so they spend more money. So you end up in these like giant, like kind of Spotify, Netflix, like quasi monopolies that exist.
Yeah. Yeah, I've studied those models quite a bit. We did an app about that years ago, and that kind of opened my eyes to that whole business model. And it's fascinating, but it's also like as a small as a small player in that pond, you're going to get eaten alive
Yeah, no.
very fast.
I'd
Yeah,
say like that style of business development where you're raising tons of money and going after giant opportunities is almost like you're playing in the Olympics of business.
yeah,
It's like you need to come like prepared, funded, right team, right vision, and you can still blow up and lose.
yeah. Exactly. Spectacularly.
Yeah, exactly. Lose. Like I forget that blanking on the name of the short form video app from like 5 or 6 years ago that like raised $1 billion and went out of business in like 90 days.
It wasn't Vine, was it?
No, it wasn't Vine. It was a different one, but I don't, maybe bad analogy for a podcast when I don't know exactly what
That's
it was.
that's pretty crazy. They raised how much and failed how fast again?
Yeah, they raised billions and failed super, super fast.
Jeez. Yeah, we don't want to do that. That's why we have this show. So hope you guys can get you can sidestep those things. Awesome. Awesome. What an episode, man. This is really, really insightful. Very, very, very cool. Um very just so much to think about. I'd love to go back and listen to this. Which I probably will. So, anyways, that will probably be a wrap for this. Can we? You said you wanted to share. You have a pretty decent blog that you'd like to share with everyone.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I write everything I basically learn on a site called subscriptionindex.com. So subscription, like a subscription model, index, like a stock index. So I write basically everything I learned down there. I don't do a ton of consulting anymore. So like anything that I see work, I write on there. So anything across pricing, paywalls, activation metrics, A/B testing, all the kind of like, big company tech stuff we learn that I think smaller companies can benefit from.
That's awesome. Very, very useful. And what's that called again?
Subscription index. yeah,
subscription.
it was super painful to learn all these lessons, so we just try to pass them on.
That's
So
awesome.
everybody else doesn't have to do the same, like, late nights that we did.
Good for you. That's very cool. So yeah, we'll get the link for you guys for that. We'll put that in the show notes here, wherever you're watching or listening to this episode. But yeah, that sounds really, really awesome, man. So thank you so much, Danny, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, of course, man. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, guys. Well, that's all. I hope you got some good value out of this episode. I know I sure did. I know I kind of had some different questions on different things, but I know that these are also applicable because I face these every single day with myself, with my clients, with all these different things going on. So hope you guys got some value out of this. And before I go, just again, quick reminder, since it is Black Friday, you can go to dappermobileapps.com/4-week bootcamp. 4-week bootcamp is actually what it is. Again, I'll have the link for that here. If you've had that idea, you want to get it launched by the first of the year, I'd love to help you with that. Everything that we talked about inside of here with Mr. Layfield will be, not everything, but most of these things will be incorporated. It's going to be really, really fun. I'm really, really looking forward to it. We're going to kick off early December here in just about a week. And it's going to be a really, really good time. So if you're interested in that, it's a screaming deal. I should actually be charging 3 times what it is, but it'll be very, very cool. So if you're interested in that, click on the link in the show notes and get started there. And we'll put the link for Daniel's subscription index here in the show notes as well. So as always, thank you all for joining and tuning into the show. Be sure to like and subscribe and share this episode with anyone you think finds value out of it. And that is all for this episode. We'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to Tech Bites, your go-to show for software business and technology. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay updated with our latest episodes, insights, and stories. Hungry for more? Dive deeper into the world of no-code by visiting dappercode.com. Your journey to building amazing software without coding skills starts there. Connect with like-minded creators and unlock a world of resources tailored just for you. Subscribe now. Explore Dapper No Code and let's innovate together.